So the vision for this vest is be for spring and summer, lightweight linen and fun layer piece.
So the first step in my design process is I pull a bunch of images that are inspiring me, usually from fellow makers, and then I do an initial sketch. This is my overall June mood board, and because it was my birthday, I think I was really drawn to this quote by Audrey Hepburn. Also, every year, my husband and I do a Festival of the Sun ritual, which is based on something that happens in Ecuador because it falls on the same days as my birthday. So I pulled a lot of inspiration for that, and I wrote about each of those stages within the festivals. I noticed that I pulled a lot of images that have implemented applique in combination with embroidery, so I decided to take a mini course with Christy Johnson online. I put it linked down below. Essentially, I wanted this vest to be the embodiment of my Festival of the Sun rituals, as well as all the joy that summer brings me, especially around my birthday in the month of June. And that's where I landed on this design.
The next step was finding a pattern.
I love supporting designers on Etsy, and often they're really affordable, so I also link this below.
She has 2 different versions, is the design that we are looking for. So, all right, I'm just gonna cut this pattern and we got it going.
Especially when a project is going to be very time intensive, I'm really mindful to do a toile. Doing it in a similar fabric is really essential to be able to determine how it's going to lay on the body. This king size quilt top that my mom donated to me that she had had for many years.
She is done. She is cute. I feel like this is perfect for just being super cozy. I will say, my waist is here. It would be really, really cool to have it be a little shorter, just under where that is. So for the next one, I'm gonna shorten it to here. I'm gonna try the smaller size. And the other thing I wanna note, I think these ties, very, very cute. They are a little bit heavier weight than I think I would have liked. I genuinely do like this. I think it's extremely cute. It's reversible. Oops, underneath it. Oh my god, it's really cute. I also think design-wise, having a pop of color and then having a color that's really similar, I like both of those things. I like the fact that this is really similar and it just adds kind of a subtlety to it. And then this has such a nice pop. I think it works out really well that I was wearing this.
I am really inspired by my materials, by just touching the fabric, seeing the color combinations from the scraps that I have. These are some scraps from one of the most recent quilted vests that I made. I didn't end up actually using them, but they were really helpful in helping me construct what I was gonna do.
All right, snatching these guys. I'm gonna grab my little cases.
Everything I used to make this vest was from fiber scraps. So this was a beautiful green linen. I started just with pinning the general gist of where the pattern was gonna lay, just to give myself an idea for when I was adding the applique. So I made the essence of what the sun was out of this large shape. Then I clipped little snips into it, which I learned a lot about from the course that I talked about.
Hello, I am extremely excited for this vest. Got my little guy, so I'm just gonna load these up. We're gonna build. The closer that the little clips are together, the easier it's gonna lay. This will make the pinning process much easier. Let's just load her up. It's not going to be perfect, not by any stretch of the imagination. This fabric is so beautiful and special. This is going to be the biggest applique piece, so this is definitely probably the most labor intensive. Looks a little wonky, but you know, who isn't? Imperfect is the most beautiful part, because now I can make it this specific level. Just because I don't want it being imperfect doesn't mean I don't care what it looks like.
I folded it in half to make sure it lined up with the halfway point in the back piece.
Because I'm going to be quilting this and I'm going to be adding an edge, it's fine, but I'm leaving it raw, but if not, I would have tucked it in.
When I have a longer pin, I like to tuck it in a second time so the tip of it isn't sticking out and it'll be less likely to catch when I'm hand appliquing.
Choosing what thread to use. This looks really good to me. End up doing little rays of the sun coming out as little triangles up top. So I'm gonna cut this into strips. I'm gonna start with stitching this down first. And I'll bring this upstairs. Little tools we've got. So everything's pinned. I did like a bajillion pins. Let's do it. Let's get sewing.
You may be thinking, why is she hand sewing this without an embroidery hoop? That seems really difficult. She thought the same thing.
It's like, why is this so hard? Because I didn't put it in an embroidery hoop. Basically getting as close to it. Imagine if we just did this in real time. This would be a better idea. Look who's in the back. She's our most like squish. She's very flat. She came to us like this, but I feel like we have squished her so much. I'm so sorry. I kind of want to refill her. How do you feel about that?
Simply hand stitching it, catching both the folded edge and the main part of the fabric, and then coming out as close to the edge as possible so it's pretty hidden. I want to save this technique for Christy Johnson's video because I don't want to take the knowledge from what she shares in the video, as I never would have been able to do this if I hadn't taken that course. I think it's really important to honor the intellectual property of artists. Oh, this is Thackeray.
Art assistant. Extraordinary.
At your service.
To not leave any pins in the bed.
That would be not so good.
Last night I had a really fun art adventure. I was very lucky that my friend Jordan, who I did my MFA with, is an amazing painter. She was so sweet. She came and picked me up. Currently just hand appliquing all of this bottom part, making sure when I get to the corners to like really secure them. Continuing to hand stitch. I'm just gonna keep going and finish this applique portion. I'm gonna figure out what I'm gonna do for the other applique portions and kind of like cut those out. The sun is done. Proud of myself. Yay! Next step, I kind of want to think about the strawberry moon situation. Let's do it.
A little bit of sun and moon, embroidery and beading inspo.
Where comes Lola? I'm thinking it'd be really cool to do the little moon here. I don't think I'll do any embroidery on the back. I don't know, I might get excited. So I drew out just the shape of the top here. These are not perfect circles, but I honestly do not want them to be. I want to be more organic. That's all this. I'm doing probably 3/8 of an inch. Again, I'm not concerned. So I'm just gonna do the same thing that I did. That's all they're wrong. Okay. Push these down and glue them, and then I'll start hand appliquing it.
Figure out a way to attach it to the dress.
Where I'm at right now, I think this looks really cute, but I don't necessarily like the look that it's got right now. I think it would honestly look cuter with some more kind of like visible stitching. I've got my embroidery gloss. I want to start thinking about where I'm going to add the strawberries. I want to incorporate the strawberries kind of like around it to be like, strawberry moon. So this is like a nice plum gray color. I think this would be nice to transitionary color between that and stuff for strawberry moon. I want to make sure this looks really good with the yellow in the background. I think it would look cool to have like a little bit of a pop of more of a saturated pink, like a white for the center of the dots, for the seeds. I think these would be cute together. Ooh, let me actually go grab the back of the vest as well. All right, it's very important to me to consider all of the color combinations together at once. Now this is kind of the complement. So green and red are complements, and obviously pink is still a complement of green. It's just red with white. Everything else on this side is going to be a lot duller. Now, the proportions of saturation to dull to dark are where, you know, personal preference comes in. So that's the palette that I'm excited about. The last part of my planning is what to do with the other side of the vest. Honestly, I have no idea right now. I think it will become obvious.
Let's embroider some strawberries. I set up my hoop and then I started drawing. I have a white thin tipped pen. If you want to use it so that, you know, you can actually rub it off, definitely use a water soluble tool. So the length of thread that I usually use is from my chest out to my arm length, because then it's less likely to get tangled, but you still have a good amount. I made a very sad discovery. This, apparently, it just got all over this, which is really sad because it's really noticeable. I'm gonna make it work. I'm gonna never use this again. She didn't mean that. I ended up spray painting it with copper and I made it into a little sun catcher. These things happen. Truly, I feel like the mistakes or things that happen that are unexpected in a project are often what make the best creative opportunities. So this ended up being one of my favorite things that I added to this garment that I didn't expect. I drew it in here, but it's really light, so you'll have to see what I added in a little bit. I did little French knots for the seeds of the strawberries with that white that we decided. That skews a little more on the gray side, which would go best with the gray striped area in the moon. I added an extra strawberry and a leaf to integrate the line, so I ended up almost making it like a little green vine. Then I ended up making strawberry flowers that you find on wild strawberry plants, intersecting into where that moon is, which incorporated where there had been that little rust stain. I had genuinely been trying to figure out where I was going to integrate the little strawberry flowers, and that gave me the opportunity. My fibers and painting practice is always intertwined. I have two pieces in particular from my Nana, an embroidered butterfly piece and a patchwork quilt that I've laid on through every single summer of my whole life. I now have it in my painting studio. Its bold red color has always made an impact on me. I've always imagined all of the different patches and what she had made to acquire those patches to then put them together into this quilt top. As my fiber and painting practice is always intertwined, it is no surprise to me, but maybe a surprise to you, that I started making a 6-foot oil painting of the blanket from a photo of myself when I'm 8 or 9, resting on the blanket after just playing with monkey beanie babies that my mom crocheted little like Weasley sweaters on, because I would play like Harry Potter but only exclusively with monkeys apparently. My Nana died when I was really young, so this has been my way to connect with her all these years, and it really means a lot to finally be able to learn quilting and learn these fiber techniques and be able to, like, though she didn't get to teach me quilting, she has truly inspired me to learn quilting by interacting with this quilt. I hope she knows in some way that how much this quilt has meant to me. All right, back to our vest. I got a piece of this red cotton and then I did a couple of measurements, which is very rare for me, but I did 3 squares of 9, each of which were 1 inch by 1 inch. Then I did the same thing that I've been doing with the other applique pieces. Because it is a square, I also clipped the corners in little triangles to make it easier to fold. Made sure to line that up so you couldn't see the marking that I'd done. Then I pinned it. I gathered my colored threads and I did a blanket stitch around the edge. One, because it would create a line and add a really beautiful texture, but also because it is a blanket, I thought it'd be cool. Then I did embroidery, abstracting not only what was in the blanket itself, the quilt itself, but also throughout the rest of the vest, to incorporate not only colors and textures together. I added that more saturated lining on the outside of the strawberries, which I think tied really well into this patch. So now I think that I finished all of the embroidered and applique elements on the front of the vest, and now I'll be able to put everything together and start quilting. Oh, you naive and overly ambitious sunflower. How you're so wrong. You might have noticed that I'm not doing this in the Maker's Nook. This is because this is before the Maker's Nook had electricity, so I had to cart all of the supplies over to use them in my painting studio. If you want to see how I transformed our tiny house into my interdisciplinary studio made for sewing, you can check out these videos. So I pressed all of the fabrics and made sure things were laying really nice and prepped them on my scrap pieces. Then I got my cotton quilted batting, which is so lovely.
Scissors? Where did you go? I was just using them. You are so beautiful to me.
This is what I've got for a scrapola. This will be great for like slippers. Just gotta get quilting pins to pin everybody down. Come into the tiny house. Okay, so I brought this little pocket guy, which is the same color as the fabric that is on the main fabric. So I want to see what is going to blend in the best. Here's a little tip. Luckily, I mostly just have green thread. Huh. So instead of testing it like this and seeing which is the closest, I like to actually just lay out. Where do you start? You're a mystery. I will take a little bit of the thread and lay it down on top. And this is obviously all what you're going for. If you want it to blend in, if you want it to be highly contrasted, if you want it to accentuate a different color, I've done all of those things. So they all are obviously not exactly the same. I think this one. No, I would say this one blends in the best. Do we have a second one of that? Oh, we have a second one. That's amazing. Okay, so I have two. Often quilting takes quite a bit of thread and tails. This will be for the bias tape because I think that's a close match. Should have brought that over too, but it's okay. And then I'm gonna bring this as another option for the bias. My tool for quilting to create the lines.
Well, I said that I was naive when I said I was done embroidering. This is what I meant. I just tend to get very inspired and just want to make things as highly concentrated, full of handmade elements as I can. So the beautiful butterfly embroidery piece that my Nana made and is now sitting in the tiny house, I got a glance at it when I was picking out my threads and I thought, oh my gosh, I should add these beautiful butterflies. Oh, where'd that pin go? Off into oblivion. Onto my quilted vest.
Now we've got the lining fabric, small cutoff of cotton batting, which is so soft. Bringing back the pattern pieces. I have been kind of transitioning embroidery applique portion of the project. Press all of these pieces nice and flat and make sure everybody feels good and ready to go. I'm actually going to make it reversible. Love making reversible pieces. Not only does it add 2 garments to your wardrobe, which feels so much more sustainable. It's so dynamic and so fun, and I feel like so many times you see the liner of a jacket or something and you're like, oh my god, I love that liner, and then you almost wish that that was the jacket. Well, that's the power of making your own clothes. You can make that happen. And then it ends up having really beautiful finished edges. And even if you don't wear both sides very often, I just love it. I'm deeply committed to that. It's in this weird shape too because it was from a scrap. The plan is I'm just gonna add a few pins throughout. I'm done that. I don't really want to use any marking, so I'm gonna use this. And what this does is you can press. So I'm gonna use this as a design element, and I'm going to take this and press. I need to pin it a little bit more, but it'll tell me where I'm gonna stitch. And I prefer that. That's my preferred method for quilting rather than putting a bunch of marks. I think I'm just completely traumatized from the first project I ever quilted. And I did this jacket that I absolutely loved, and it was like indigo dyed and it patchworked, and it took me forever, and it was such a labor of love. I used a clover yellow marking tool, and it never came off. Like I washed it, I rubbed it, I tried every single thing I could think of. If anyone has any tips, like post, you know, washing it and using it and stuff to get yellow clover off of your garment, I would still be really happy to eliminate that.
I wanted the two sides of the vest to be consistent with not only the angle, but how the quilting kind of like intersected. So I was really mindful to keep them both out at the same time, and I kept double checking the angles.
This is my version of trying it on, testing it out. I think this is gonna be so cute in the inside. Oh my goodness, we've come so far. I think it's gonna be gorgeous. Let's pause and finish the embroidery. Need to pause for a snack. And it's absolutely gorgeous outside. So maybe I'll sit outside, eat, and then do some embroidery.
I decided to add another layer of stitching on the inside because it just looks a little sparse to me. Provide a nice like denseness in the center. I'm gonna really load up on the brown and have that be really thick. I don't have enough of this color to make it completely opaque like that, like filling in everything. I will either use a different color to fill that in or just leave it because it might be nice to have it like denser in the center and then be lighter on the outside. Not sure. I was able to sit outside for a little while, which was really nice. The embroidery is officially actually done now. This is making me very emotional. So much of the reason that I started wanting to learn how to do embroidery was because of this, that I love daisies and butterflies so much. I got my tattoo. I designed this based on this actually. It's cool to have like gotten to the point, like I could have made it look even more like it if I had done, because this is definitely, it feels like a wool yarn. This is just like my version, but I just think it's so special. Yeah, this makes me really happy, so yay! All of the embroidery for this project is now officially done. I'm gonna bring this downstairs. Gonna prep this piece for quilting. I keep losing this needle for some reason. Excuse me. I'm sure I'll find it. Okay, I found it. Oh, you can hear so many birds. It sounds so pretty. This is gonna be so cute. This could just be a wall hanging, a tapestry styled piece that would hang on the wall that would be similar to this and not something I wear. I just always tend to make things that I'm gonna wear. Because I'm a painter, like I make things for walls all the time. So for embroidery and all my fiber arts, I try to make things that are for the body. This is gonna be really cute. Let's go downstairs. All right, everybody's ready to go. I went back in and added a blanket stitch all the way around. I just think it accents it really well, and I did the same thing to the moon. I think it's really nice that they're connected in that way. And I tried to tie in the colors and the shapes and sort of just the way that that blanket makes me feel. Bam! Everybody's looking great. Here we are again. Now we're just gonna sew. Just gonna do some quilting. I always use my walking foot and I grab a quilting needle. Yeah, just get going. So I try to start at kind of like the center and then work out from there. I try to do like a T in the center and then I move
periodically out from that center rather than starting from the edges, because then things tend to get bunched in the middle, not perfectly center on this, because I didn't want to go through the strawberries first. I just kind of wanted to gear up to that.
Ta-da! Ooh, After a couple hours, I finished quilting, and I think the pink is gonna come off, no problem. Brush it off. The next step is to lay my pieces down and cut them out. So I like to pin it to get it really nice and secure. I purposely designed this to go like slightly off the edge. That's why I left that part raw. Okay, let's do it. Oh my god. It's like I feel confident, but also terrified. There's no going back. Alright, we got a late night. I'm sewing ahead. Stitching along the edge so then everything just stays really nice and you're not like dealing with anything like flapping forward or anything, just to lock in all these seams because you don't backstitch, and so everything is just kind of like loose. So I'm just doing it the width of this, which is what I usually do. Bam, too big. So I'm just gonna cut her in half. I recommend getting the right size, but I already had this, so don't waste it. All right, plenty of bias tape. I'm gonna sew these together and then I'll do the bias tape. This is nice and thin. It might end up being too short, but I'm just gonna see how it goes and I can always remake them. I'm gonna sew the side seam together and then add binding to armholes, and then I will do it around the entire thing. Now I'm definitely gonna use these. So I'm gonna stitch this first before I add the binding. I'm gonna switch back to my walking foot. Oh, I'm gonna use my bias tape. I try to clip all this stuff to get it out of the way. Again, I just cut it the tiniest bit over just to make sure when I'm sewing, if anything shifts at all, just have a little extra. Now I'm going to press the seam to the back. So if you are not going to make this reversible, you can leave this and this is just like a seam. You could also have just left this seam without the bias binding if you're not doing a reversible. It just looks really clean on the inside. You can leave this sticking out, but I like to tack it down. So you can either do this by simply just top stitching over right here. Do it like as close as you can to this part and make sure you catch everything underneath, or you can hand stitch it. That is up to you. I'm just going to top stitch it because I'm going to be doing that to the rest of it, so I figured that's okay. That's when it's nice to match this thread the best you can, because then it's not as noticeable.
I just like to leave a little bit to play with because I have often cut it too short. And then you're like, oh no, I don't have enough. So now I'm just gonna lay this down like this. Get that ready. I'm gonna prep both sleeves at the same time just because Helps the workflow a little bit. I like to start it in the back and the center because that's the least noticeable. Whereas if I start it at the front, it's a little more noticeable possibly. And then if I start it here, there's already so much going on there. There's already such a density of fabric that I don't really want to do that. So I just start it right there. So we're at a pretty exciting part. I am folding on the bias and I'm at what I think is the last step. It's just really exciting that we're getting to the last steps. Okay, all right, I'm gonna take a reveal video. So good with this sweater. Oh! Oh, you can see the butterflies. All right, let's flip her around. This side really feels like a gardener jacket. You're gonna hold that. Thank you. I don't know which way to wear it. I just love them both so much. I just want to make sure you got the butterflies. I am in awe and shock, honestly, that I made this and that it is done, and I'm really proud of it, and it makes me feel really happy. And that is what I want all my garments to feel like. I want them to make me feel safe and happy in my body and embrace living with chronic pain, and I just want to feel like I still have ownership over who I am even when I'm not feeling well and I'm living with chronic pain. And that's why I started making garments, was to have them be gentle armor. This feels like that to me. So yeah, 2 new vests. Man. I'm excited to wear this with dresses, with stuff like this. I think even if I just wore like a tank top underneath.
Definitely. This reminds me of in Vermont when we used to go.
Just have my arms out, and I think that would be cute.
So cute. Wow.
Also, even though it is so much more fitted than it was before, there is still room for a little bit of layering. Wow, it really goes well with the sweater. That's very cool. We're happy about that. We might be able to sense some of the rain. I don't want my camera to get damaged, but I can feel a couple little drops coming, so I think I should go inside soon. There's so much more inspiration from the beautiful flowers that are outside, so I want to go on a little adventure in my new vest and take some photos. I hope this is inspiring to you. If you want me to make a vest for you or a quilted jacket, check out my form on my website. I'm your girl for custom artwork that is inspired by nature. I'm gonna go explore and apparently get this something out of my eyeball. Okay. Bye. Beautiful flowers. I want to make another vest. I already have so many ideas for more vests. Now that I have the fit right, I'm gonna be an unstoppable vest making machine. Okay, so there's probably gonna be more videos of vests. Hope you like vests.